Hello and welcome to my first video on how to improve your colored pencil drawings. Today we're going to be working with a lot of shading, starting with the supplies that you will be using. For paper, Bristle Smooth. Any colored pencil of your choice. I will be using Caran d'Ache Luminous 6901. Colored pencil sharpener, a fine liner. My preference is Pigma Micron 0.005 or 0.003 for an illustration. So just a few tips before we begin working on the art. You always want to use a very sharp colored pencil. You want to hold the colored pencil at the side more so that when you start to lay down color, it can be a flat surface. A second technique will be to use the complementary colors. So I'm going to be drawing a red circle today and shade it with green. Pressure is a big part of colored pencil too. So once you do bring that colored pencil down to the paper, the lighter pressure you use is going to lay down a very light color. When you start pressing more, it's going to darken the color. I really recommend lots of layers with colored pencil simply because you want room to build and really have time to blend the colors and to build a nice value. Technique of the pencil is to draw light circles. This is a very lime lemon green, which is what I usually start with. It's very light and it gives me room to play. And now I start coming in with some grass green. Again, those small circles, light pressure, and I'm just shading the edge of this circle to make it a bit more in a shadow. And I'm bringing that color lightly towards the middle to blend throughout the circle. So I'm even lightly bringing it into the other side. Once that green is where I like it, I start bringing in my red, and I'm going to bring 2 shades of red. I start with an orange red. I'm just coming across all the colors now. And now I'm going to bring in a darker red, still the light pressure, and I want to put that red over the entire circle. And now I want to start putting more pressure on my pencil. When you're working with complementary colors, it becomes a much richer shade, in my opinion, of the color that you're intending. So I'm trying to hide that green, but the green really makes a deep, rich red on the edge. And then I lighten my touch as I come into the middle of the circle. And then I'm just lightening it even more as I go to the other side. Once I have the dark down, I'm going to come back in with that lighter red and apply more pressure, and you can almost see it starting to blend more. Blending is a very large part of colored pencil drawing, and anything lighter than the color that's being covered, the lighter color begins to blend the darker one. How many times you come back in totally will be up to you, and as you develop your own style, you'll kind of get into a system. But now look at that beautiful deep red popping out. I do truly enjoy watching the speed art process of colored pencil. Not only does it show you how once the image starts popping, sometimes it's just one extra layer that really makes your piece come to life. But you also see your style and how you layer, which is really quite fun. Okay, so now you can see I have shading on one side. It's giving the circle a little more shape. The final touch with colored pencil is to blend. You can blend with white, you can blend with anything lighter than what we're working with. Today I'm going to use a light apricot because it's warm and I like the combination with red. One color going over everything just unites the piece, in my opinion, and brings it all together. So for the illustration today, we will be creating Fungus Man. Parts of my video will be speed art, and I'll walk through certain processes and slow them down as I create them, but I hope you enjoy. As you can see, I like to use a lot of shading with my characters. It just gives them depth. So the trick to shading is to start with the complementary color. Colored pencil is a lot of layering, so I tend to start very, very light with a lighter value. So I'm going to start with the light. Once I kind of like what's going on there, I come in with a darker green. Technique is very, very small circles, and you start light. If you're feeling like you can see the circles, Another technique is make sure your color pencil is sharp, but you can have paper on the side and you just make kind of a flat edge on that colored pencil tip. Once I have the shading down, then I want to start introducing the red by coming over the green. Why light? Because if you press too hard, it makes the paper shiny, and you want to be able to build. It may start to look a little muddy. For example, it's not quite red, not quite green. That'll all come in time. Notice that I am going up to the edge, and now I'm pulling that red into the mushroom cap, very light. Also going to start putting a little more pressure on that pencil. Using that green in the background, it's really starting to make a beautiful shade of a dark, dark red. And then I'm going to take this color and lighten my touch. So now it's a very light touch, and I'm bringing it into the mushroom cap so that it blends the color more. I like to come in now with a lighter red and go over it again. So now it's just the opposite. The shading is going to be red and cover it with green. So then I start to come in with light green. And then coming in with a darker green. Once you have that first layer down, you start coming back in, beginning to add more pressure, but lighter over those lighter colors, lighter pressure. Bringing that deep red in again. And now I'm applying a lot more pressure because my shading is where I want it. Less pressure when I come into the mushroom cap. But you can see that dark red really starting to pop out. The final part to the mushroom cap is to blend. Blending anything lighter than what's on there is going to kind of bring all the colors together. Just a medium amount of pressure, because now you're just blending all the colors together. And I want the layers beneath to still appear. Using one color to blend over all the colors that you have layered, it brings the piece together so that you don't have real abrupt divisions. I'm going to bring a little more green in here, so just dark. And when I blend over all of these layers with that lighter green, it's going to bring these last layers up. So it'll make them darker, and we'll see that in a moment. It's really fun when it starts to come to life. When you do shape, notice I am not drawing in circles. I am drawing in the shape of the tummy. So my final step is to blend, and I like to blend with these spring greens when I'm over a green, lighter when I'm going over the yellow. I don't want to overpower, but it still blends it nicely. You can use pen and ink techniques to add a little more depth to your creature, but you just start now tracing, because colored pencil does cover the line. And if you notice, sometimes I go off the line, but I do want to add some more texture with dots, with cross hatching. If I make a mistake, I can come back in and fill it in with color, or I can use a pen and ink technique.